We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Meet Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote. Forbes magazine estimates his wealth at $25 billion, making him the 23rd richest man in the world with a growing portfolio of investments across Africa. The Nigerian business magnate began with a small trading firm in 1977. Today, his businesses cover everything from cement manufacturing, food processing to freight. Dangote Group employs about 25,000 people in Nigeria. It is building cement factories in 16 African countries and buying mining licenses from Kenya to Zambia. Aliko Dangote has taken on the aura of an economic folk hero for some, turning a loan from his uncle into the most successful business conglomerate in Africa. But to others, he is a villain who's used his political connections to sideline the potential competition. Aliko Dangote talks to Al Jazeera. Aliko Dangote, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. Thank you for welcoming us into your home here in Lagos.
You're very welcome.
Your story, Aliko Dangote, says what is possible about Africa. Tell us about your journey to success. How are you able to turn a loan from your uncle into the most successful business conglomerate on the African continent?
You know, I mean, Africa is full of opportunities. And I think what we did was to actually harness fully the opportunities that, we met on the ground. I mean, we've done quite a lot in various areas. We started first, with trading. After succeeding with trading, now what we did was to go into manufacturing, which is normally a very difficult area, especially from this part of the world because of lack of power.
Right.
But we've been able to resolve those issues, and we're able to, succeed in most of what we are doing.
We are interested in the man, Aliko Dangote. Tell us about your upbringing, because your story is not really of one from rags to riches. You come from a wealthy family in Nigeria.
Well, I came from wealthy family. My grandfather was my great-grandfather from my mother's side was actually very, very wealthy, Alassane Tata. And then his son, also Sanusi Tata, whom really raised me up because, I lost my dad at the age of 8. And, so after educating me, he gave me a loan of which I was grateful, and I paid back in 3 months, because business was so good. And, I was able to establish myself from the trading to, manufacturing, and now to a lot of daring things, like refinery, the agricultural process that we're doing, and also the, fertilizer.
Right. As you say, your business spans a lot of different sectors: cement, flour, salt.
Yes.
Let me just ask you this: why commodities in a country like Nigeria, where oil is king? Why not get into the oil business right away?
Well, you see, at first, really, what we thought of doing as a company, we said that, look, let us work very, very hard and get there first. Because if we had followed that trend of dealing in oil, would have actually tainted our name, that name, because, yes, the household name, because people will always think that, look, you have made this much money because you did a lot of unethical deals in oil industry, because you know the story of the oil industry. So we actually kept out of oil at all and just concentrated on food items.
As you mentioned, you're going up the food chain now, getting into energy, and in particular oil and gas refining. Nigeria has a lot of oil, but not a lot of refined gas, and it has to import most of the motor fuel and fossil fuel.
Yeah, more than 90%.
Of course, and a lot of people feel that Africa could grow a lot faster with more of its own refinery capacity. So tell us about this project that you've started, and also how tough is it going to be for you? I mean, it must be very challenging, because you're going to be competing against the European, the Chinese, and the American companies who are all elbowing each other to satisfy Africa's energy needs.
What we're going to do now, really, we're going to do 500,000 barrels. It was 400,000, but we upped it now to 500,000 barrels of oil refining per day. Then petrochemical of polypropylene of 750,000. Metric tons. I know that, yes, it's very, very challenging, but that's what we like. In Dangote Group, we like challenging things, and we like to make sure that we do things where we'll make our country proud and also self-sufficient. So once we do this, Nigeria will never ever import any oil at all. No petroleum products, zero. We'll meet up the full capacity, and we've taken up a land that will allow us to grow 3 times. So we have plans of also further growth. But the challenges, I think, will be able to surmount most of them because, number one, we're a local domesticated refinery. So most of the logistics cost will not be there. And then we don't have to pile up a lot of petroleum products, in stock because the refinery is there, it's working. Obviously, yes, maybe we'll have about 15, 20 days of reserves, but that's it.
Let me talk about the foreign investment in this country, in China in particular. China's presence on the African continent is huge. China has ramped up its investments in Africa. Is China's presence, in your opinion, a win-win for Africa, as they put it?
I think it is a win-win situation. We happen to deal with a lot of African, Chinese companies, and we've been doing very well as contractors. But I see most of what is happening, the Chinese are coming here mainly for mineral resources, for what they need. But setting up local domestic industries, I'm not really seeing Chinese people participating in local domestic industries. They are very big in construction, they are very big in providing infrastructure, but really bringing foreign direct investment, they are not as much as the Europeans.
Because a lot of African businessmen, especially at the local level, complain about the Chinese competition.
Well, they complain about maybe different competition. Competition in the sense of maybe smuggling of textiles, for example, in Nigeria, because they don't have textiles here. But they are smuggling it in here, where they have killed most of our domestic local textile industries. But participating in the real economy, I've not really seen Chinese doing much there.
Why do you think Africa can succeed without relying on the foreign investments like the Chinese investment and the European?
Africa,
can they really do it? Because
nobody can do that. You see, what we need to do as Africans, first of all, is to show that confidence that yes, it is possible. It can be done, and then the foreign investors will follow suit. There is nowhere on earth where foreign investors will go and create an economy or make that economy great. No. The local people must move first. Right. When they move first, then they will be supported by the foreign investors.
The richest man in Africa for the 4th year in a row, Aliko Dangote, 23rd on Forbes' rich list around the world. How does it feel being so in a continent which is, for the most part, still afflicted by poverty?
Well, it feels a little bit odd, yes, it's true, but then it gives you a lot of thinking and responsibilities. You say, okay, fine, what do I do to impact humanity? And that's why we do quite a lot in terms of our foundation. We spend average of $100 million in Dangote Foundation, which we set up in 1993. And then again, I've just did additional endowment to the foundation, which was $1.25 billion. With that, yes, we do that on the philanthropic side. But then, in terms of creating of jobs, we now have this farm which we have developed. I mean, we're doing almost about 120,000 hectares of rice land, and then we are doing 260,000 hectares of sugar, which we are targeting to do 1.5 million tons of sugar in the next 5 years. This will create 180,000 jobs.
So you feel like you're giving back, you're doing enough?
Well, we're giving back because we're creating quite a lot of jobs. We're not doing like other Africans where most of the money is in the bank. Right. We don't keep any money in the bank. Whatever we have, we fully invest, and we keep on investing. And that's what we do.
Let me ask you something a bit more personal. How do you stay grounded? I mean, you seem like a very simple and humble man. Usually in Africa, when people are rich, they tend to flaunt it. I speak here from experience. How do you stay grounded?
Which experience did you?
I wasn't rich, unfortunately. But from the different things that I've seen around the continent, even when it comes to the leaders of the African continent.
I can really tell you the truth. My upbringing from my late grandfather really helped me quite a lot. He was a very, very humble person, and sometimes he used to drive himself, and that's what I do now. Even on weekends right now, once I finish this interview with you, I won't go out to the driver. I'm going to go alone, and I'm going to drive myself. I mean, I feel safe, and really I don't have any issues, with that. It's always better to be humble. They say that no condition is permanent. So I want to always run my life, whether I have money or I don't have money, I can run it, and it's true. I'm sure your life is more expensive to run than mine.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm sure.
Nigeria is Africa's #1 oil exporter, as we've said, but also probably the largest importer of petroleum products. A paradox, because really it's a system that's full of corruption. There's no denying it. So you've said, and I've heard you say this in several interviews, that corruption doesn't stop business. What do you mean by that?
Well, corruption doesn't stop business. There's no country without corruption. Even our own in Africa is well pronounced because we have very weak institutions. What you need are very, very big institutions so that when you cross the line, there's somebody that will deal with you squarely. But, be it in America, in Europe, or anywhere, these are countries that also have corruption, not at the same level with what we have
because
in Africa. But
in a country like Nigeria, for instance, sorry to interrupt you, Nigeria is ranked 144 out of 177 on Transparency International list of corrupt countries.
Okay, I don't know the number.
But it's known to be a notoriously corrupt country. So my question is, your journey to the top in a system that's notoriously corrupt, you must have had to pay some kickbacks and so on.
Let me tell you something. We have actually never ever paid anybody any kickback at all.
Never.
And that never, honestly. But when you look at it also, when people were busy getting what you call waivers to make money here and there, we don't do it. If we really wanted to make money, especially that I've been close to almost every president that has passed through that seat, I would have actually, gone into oil. Yeah, I told you, before that we decided not to go into oil because we don't want to be tainted. So you don't have to pay. It's not everybody. When you say yes, you cannot generalize that, yes, it's a corrupt nation, everybody is corrupt. No,
it's not a generalization, but the reality is that.
It's true, but there are also a lot of people who are busy fighting the corruption. Some are fighting it, some are, trying to expand it, but I think the government is also trying quite a lot to stop, but it's true, it's an issue that has been on for a very long time. Stopping it in one day is not possible.
Do you think the government is serious, this current government is serious about tackling corruption?
I think yes, they are. They've been, saying it. I'm sure you must have heard them maybe 10, 20 times, but they are very serious about it. There's no nation that will allow corruption to go deep into the society. You try and stop it, yes, people will fight you, but you have to fight them. As a government, you have all the powers. But that's why I also mentioned we need very strong institutions. Very strong institutions will help Africa a lot. And Africa lacks these strong institutions.
Right. You've alluded to this, that you've been very close to the Nigerian government. They've supported your venture. At one point, your company had exclusive imports rights in sugar, cement, and rice.
No, we have never had exclusivity.
But you have,
there was nothing like exclusivity.
There was nothing like exclusivity?
Nothing whatsoever. Nobody, in fact, right now, if you look at it, let me give you an example. We have invested heavily, maybe $6–7 billion in cement alone. But some people are saying, no, we're not happy because they are too big in the, cement business. And
this is what my question is. What do you respond to those who criticize you and say that you've benefited greatly of government favoritism, which has allowed you to collapse all competition and small business in Nigeria and establish yourself as a sole importer or manufacturer? What do you respond to those critics?
Well, first of all, there was never any time where we were the sole manufacturers or sole importers or whatever of any item. It has never, ever happened, only maybe during when we took risk. Let me give you an example. There was nothing like sugar industry in Nigeria. And everything was imported, maybe small, the farming side. We took a risk in 1999 and opened up a refinery which we built with about $250 million then. Okay, so if we are the only ones having that sort of refinery, nobody was stopped. How can you say that somebody has given us a license? We are not giving a license to operate alone. Okay, what normally government will roll out, like right now, let me give you an example. Government has rolled out their agricultural policy on self-sufficiency in sugar. Okay, nobody is investing, maybe two of us. So tomorrow, when we are successful, somebody will rise up and say, ah, no, this is a monopoly. It's not a monopoly because nobody has been stopped. That's number one. Number two, government has always been begging people to come and invest. So if we hit the call of government to go and invest, is that a problem with that?
But can you understand that some people may see your close ties with the government, whether it's former President Obasanjo or the current government, as they can see it as a sort of favoritism? Could you understand that?
Let me tell you something. You know, during the regime of Obasanjo had never ever given me anything directly. And, you know, I know that,
but you
yes,
helped
eventually
finance his campaign, according to it.
No, well, you know, whether I finance his campaign, but when I finance a campaign for anybody, it has no relationship. There are some African presidential campaigns that, yes, we fund, or we are part of the funding, but we have nothing to do even in the country. What we are looking for is good governance. Okay, so today, for example, you know, during Obasanjo's regime, which favors were we given? The greatest thing that we have actually hooked on was that Obasanjo said that, look, importers of cement, we don't want to see any imported cement. What we want you to do is to make sure that you go and do a backward integration, produce the cement locally. We have everything, and that's what we have been able to prove in 7 years.
So does Aliko Dangote then epitomize the free market at work in Nigeria?
Oh yeah, we do. In fact, look, you see, today I am also a co-chair of the Nigerian Industrial Revolution. I've served in Foreign Investment Council. So if I serve on that one, my own duty today as a Nigerian, not as Aliko Dangote, is to keep convincing people to come and invest in Nigeria. And I keep telling people that, look, Nigeria is the best kept secret. If I don't want competition, I'll just sit down and keep quiet. But I think the country is much, much larger than my interest. Right. Okay, so the more investors that we have, the better.
The unequal distribution of the oil wealth has contributed to a persistent inequality problem between North and South.
Yes, I agree.
The poverty in the North is in stark contrast to the more developed southern states, and more people are unemployed and, as you know, illiterate in the North than they are in the South, which some people say is really then no surprise that extremist groups like Boko Haram continue to have appeal in some areas of northern Nigeria. So what are you, as Nigeria's richest man, doing to address this inequality? Are you investing in the North? Because it seems that no one seems to be interested in investing in northern Nigeria because of the rising insecurity in the region. What are you doing for your...
What we are doing right now, we're investing about $2 billion alone in sugar plantations, you know, to make sure that we make the country self-sufficient. And 100% of this investment is up north. You know, almost about 55% of our cement production is up in the north central part of the country. In the northeastern and northwestern part of the country, that's where we're doing this sugar. In part of the north central, which is Niger State, and also Edo State, the northern part of Edo, we're also growing rice. But in a nutshell, we'll be spending almost maybe up to about $2.5 billion by creating 180,000 jobs. And that's just a start.
Right. So you agree then that to address the threat of Boko Haram, you need to...
I said it before.
To address the fundamental problems of the
Yes, I said it during the World Economic Forum that, look, part of the only thing that we can do to stop Boko Haram is to create jobs. Because when you create jobs, they themselves, they will find it very difficult to recruit people to join them. Because, you know, everybody will be busy. But you are right, it is also very dangerous to allow people to just sit down morning, day and night, 24 hours, 7 days a week, while they have nothing doing. Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a recipe for crisis.
Nigeria recently overtook South Africa as the continent's largest economy, but you wonder how much direct investment can this brand new economy truly bring if Nigeria is still defined by insecurity? Well, what do the people, the investors that you deal with, the foreigners that you deal with, what do they tell you about this particular issue?
Well, you see, it depends on the appetite of the investor But I can assure you the insecurity and all the challenges that we're facing, it's true, we're facing. It's not good for me to tell you here that we're not, because it's a well-known stuff. But also, it does not stop people who really want to invest. Because the country is very large, they can invest in some.
Do you think the government
sectors.
has handled this security issue well?
I think they have tried, their best, but they need to do more. That's the truth.
I'd like to talk about religion, a sensitive issue in Nigeria. You were educated at Al-Azhar University, yes, which is the highest institution of Sunni Islam. What role has religion played in your personal life?
I'm actually very, it's not always good. Whether you are a Muslim or a Christian, it's not good for you to be too extreme in your own religion. We all worship the same God. It's just different of beliefs. You believe in this or whatever, but religion is something that is between you and your God. And I personally don't believe that, I think we should practice mostly what they are practicing here in the South, because in the South you see that, yes, somebody, even in the North, I've seen some of my friends, they are married Christian, women, and they did not ask them to change their religion.
So more tolerance.
Yeah, so it's not even allowed. I mean, if you want to now go and marry a Christian, if I'm going to marry a Christian lady now, unless she believes in my religion, I'm not going to force her to change.
What do you respond to those who blame religion for the social, economic, and political state of Nigeria today, who say that the lack of separation between state and religion is really the main problem in Nigeria today? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't really agree with that. I mean, the state does not really play. It's a very liberal, state. It's a country where we say that we're secular. There's actually
you
not.
You say that you're secular, but is it practice?
I think it's practiced to a certain extent, but some politicians used to play with religion, which I think is very, very bad and dangerous. It's not good for anybody to use religion as a game. I mean, that is between you and your God. So I think they shouldn't. Really.
Some people fear that what Boko Haram is doing right now in northern Nigeria could lead to a breakup of the country along religious and ethnic lines. Do you believe that could happen in the future?
Let me also tell you something that maybe which people need to know. Do you know or do you realize that Boko Haram have actually, people that they killed so far, 70% of those people are Muslims. So how do you define, this, so it means that they are not fighting Christians. I think there are just some people who are trying to create issues and problems in Nigeria, hiding under this, Boko Haram issues. I mean, it is a pity, but I'm sure now everybody has woken up, and I'm sure everybody will do his best. It's not only government alone that will do it. Almost every single person in the society will have to rise up against this, madness.
Everyone has a role and responsibility.
Everybody has a role and responsibility.
So as you said yourself, you're from the prominent Dantata family of Kano State, who have a great deal of influence in Nigeria's Muslim community. You have a lot of money, Aliko Dangote. You have strong political connections. So have you ever considered running for office? Have you ever considered leaving business and getting into politics?
It's just like clapping. There's no way you can clap with one of your hands. You need another hand. Even when you go into politics, if the economy is not doing well, what are you going to rule? You want to rule people in poverty, right? Which is not right. So I think people who are specialists in politics, we will support the good ones. They will go and run the, the political side of this. My own role is to see how can I develop Nigeria? How can I create jobs? What gives me joy is how many people have actually helped through job creation, through doing so many things, and in future I want to make sure that Nigeria is self-sufficient in rail lines, in power, in a lot of things. So I can do my own contribution. I don't have to become president of Nigeria to change lives.
So those who say Aliko Dangote for president, you tell them?
No, nothing. I've never heard that word. I'm only hearing it for the first time from you.
No, I've read it many times. A lot of people think you can
you are telling me. I've never heard it, But no, I mean, to be serious, I don't have any intention with that.
Aliko Dangote, thank you so very much for
talking to us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.